Hey everybody, John Ramdeen and Robin Black with you here in our downtown studios, UFC 208. A success. We saw the former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva secure a victory. It's been a number of years, and a lot of people are going to criticize his performance, but we look at him as a legend, one of the greats of martial arts. This guy is an enigma. He's also a man who I'm sure is like, oh my God, I've got to win a fight. If I want to continue to fight at the highest level, I've got to really go out there and take control of the scenario. And I think he did that for the most part. I know you felt that Derek Brunson won the fight. I thought it was a very, very close fight. I did have Silva. I think I'm going to have to go back and watch the fight. But what were your takeaways after 15 minutes?
Yeah, first off, I'm 100% with you. I was just happy Anderson Silva got a win. I at the time, thought they were going to lift Derek Brunson's hand, but I was happy to see the legend get a win in his 40s, which is cool. You know, he's not operating like he once was. You can see it. It's very visible. But there were some really great takeaways for him regardless. Among them is, you know, Chris Weidman just wouldn't let him be Anderson, just wouldn't accept that he's Anderson Silva, holy crap. And Nick Diaz wouldn't really, oh my God, it's Anderson Silva. And neither would Michael Bisping. No. But Brunson did.
He allowed it.
Brunson did. He was still able to project that onto somebody, and that's a real skill. That's not some nebulous thing. You have the ability to make somebody perform poorly. That's impressive, and to still be capable of doing that was cool, because Brunson was jumpy and hesitant, but I still thought did enough. When you go back and if you do rewatch it, in rounds 2 and 3, Anderson really didn't touch him a lot. He did a lot of cool stuff, and it is also the entertainment business, but he didn't do a lot of hitting the other man.
What about the idea of turning up the temperature? If you're Anderson Silva and you're the judge just looking at those two, the second round, it's like, well, sure, that guy's not really doing anything, but that guy, the other guy seems very scared and very tentative. Who are you giving? And then again, when the strikes are so close, numbers-wise, what are you looking at?
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's how he won. And if you think about that, you know, as you get older, you will punch slower, and you will not kick as hard, and the basic things of fighting will deteriorate. That's why 50-year-olds don't play in the NFL. You know, that happens. So you have some other skills that you have developed over time, the enigmatic skills of fighting, and he has those, and he did that to Brunson. But that's not part of the scoring criteria. You know what I mean? We talked about it in our Home Durand to Me chat earlier today. Your job for the money, what you're being paid to do, is convince those two guys that you won. Anderson did that. So congratulations to him. And it was cool that he still had that ability to bewilder, because that's a real thing. If it wasn't a real thing, you know, then everybody could do it, or everybody could ignore it, but they can't. It's real. And Derek Brunson felt that he won that fight, and I agree with him. I thought he did more, but he can't deny that fighting Anderson Silva was very different than anyone else he's ever fought.
Do you feel that part of the reason that Brunson maybe didn't pull the trigger is because of what happened in his last fight, coming off a knockout loss against Robert Whittaker? We certainly don't want that to happen. I've seen Anderson Silva do that to a lot of people.
Very much so. And that right there is the you're fighting yourself aspect of fighting. 4 guys, I went at him and I destroyed him. And then one guy, I went at him and he destroyed me. Now what do? Do I change everything? Do I change nothing? Do I change a little bit? Do I hesitate? And then you've got Anderson Silva doing some Anderson Silva shit, and the whole thing the wheels start coming off it. I thought he did a little more, but that was, for a guy in his 40s who can't quite pull the trigger himself the way he once did, to be capable of doing that is still pretty cool.
For Anderson Silva, we know, again, this is a game of ego. You got to keep the ego in check. When Anderson Silva looks at this this performance and this win over Derek Brunson, do you feel that he would mentally think, you know what, I'm ready for a title? Of course, he would believe that he could fight Michael Bisping for a title. But if Michael Bisping wasn't the champion, and it happened to be Yoel Romero, or happened to be Luke Rockhold, or happens Chris Weidman, or Gegard Mousasi, do you think Anderson Silva wants to be a part of that? Considering a win over Derek Brunson.
I mean, he might. But you got to live in reality too. That performance there, he had a good round against Michael Bisping, and a decent round against Michael Bisping, and then this performance, which was pretty cool, to be capable of doing that. But he's going to get older every week. He's going to get older every month. He's going to slow down over time. I don't want to see this legend laid out a couple more times, but it's his life, and he's going to live it exactly how he wants to live it. And so Would you like to see him get in there with Luke Rockhold? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't
it's his
either.
life, and
Yeah.
if he wants to fight Luke Rockhold, I'll watch him do it, and I'll have a little fingers crossed behind my back that maybe Anderson will find a way.
When you think of the performance against Derek Brunson, does Anderson Silva look at those 3 rounds and say, you know what, there's certain things I could have done in there I didn't do because I just wanted to get a victory. Yes, I was trying to be the old Anderson Silva, but I just didn't feel comfortable. Now I know I got the win. In my next fight, I can show some things I didn't show.
Maybe, but when you're 25 and you're growing and you're learning and you're evolving as a fighter or an athlete or whatever you do, you should expect improvements, growth, become better. When you're 41 and now you're moving that way, you should expect and anticipate slowing, some loss of some of these things, and prepare for that. That's why Dan Henderson fought the way he did, because Dan Henderson understood himself on such a high level that he didn't expect growth in areas that at his age he would lose, and so he minimized the menu down to just what the right things to do were. If you saw Anderson Silva start doing that, you'd be like, this guy's planning for how to win as he ages, but you're not seeing him do that. You're seeing him, and we were seeing him enjoy fighting, and that was cool to see. And as somebody who didn't always appreciate Anderson Silva in the gold times, I'm happy to see this legend fight a couple more times and do well. But you get frightened when guys are in their 40s and you all of a sudden a big, muscular, handsome Luke Rockhold is standing across the cage. You don't like that. It makes you feel uncomfortable.
When you think of the 185-pound division and where the UFC is right now, we don't know if Conor's coming back. We don't know if we know Conor's coming back. We just don't know when Conor's coming back. We're not sure if Ronda's coming back. Dana White's saying we don't have a deal with George St. Pierre. So when you look at those things, and the UFC's the new owners are trying to recoup some of the money that they just put out for this new promotion, do you feel that they would go out of their way to put on a fight like Anderson Silva and Michael Bisping, considering you're coming off a win over a top-ranked guy? I know people are going to scream blue murder, but you can sell this fight because of what happened in the first fight with Michael Bisping. If you ask Michael Bisping, what would be the best matchup for him when you look at those guys? Wouldn't Anderson Silva be at the top of that list?
For sure. And you say people would scream bloody murder as if that's a bad thing. In business these days, that's a good thing. I'm going to build a wall and I'm going to get Mexico to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? People freaking out is a desirable reaction now for any corporation. Because nobody decides to not watch it, but when they get angry, they call that engagement. 1,000 thumbs up and 700 thumbs down is just 1,700 engagement. And then people screaming at each other underneath is more engagement. It's hard to get people's attention, and these days, the entertainment business will take it however they can get it. If that is you're watching or talking about it because you hate it, they'll take it.
Anderson Silva gets a victory for the first time since his win over Stephan Bonnar a number of years ago. UFC 208 went down this past Saturday in Brooklyn, New York.